What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be taking a look at the interest for the 2025 Wurth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start by talking about the one car for Trackhouse Racing. This is once again be driven by Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain's coming off finishing in the top 20 this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. He's still looking for his first Cup Series win of the 2025 season, but generally has put up some really good results in the early portion of the year. He came very close to winning the spring race last year at Texas before getting turned on the last lap of the event. He'll be one of the favorites, I think, to have a chance to get it done. He looks for win number 1 of 2025 at Texas. Up next, how about the 2 car for Team Penske? This will once again be driven by Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric is coming off of picking up his first NASCAR Cup Series win of the year and his third career Cup Series victory this past weekend at Talladega. He's generally ran a lot better early in the year compared to prior years, and I think he has an opportunity to continue that really strong momentum. He's won here in the Xfinity Series before, back I believe in 2021 if I'm not mistaken, or 2020, so I think he's got a good chance to have a solid run. We'll see what he can do with Team Penske at Texas. Up next, how about the 3 car for Richard Childress Racing? This will once again be driven by Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon's coming off of having an okay run this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Now, he's a former winner of Texas Motor Speedway back in the summer race of 2020. Austin Dillon's looking for his first Cup win in 2025, and I believe it would be a 5th or 6th career NASCAR Cup Series win. He's looking to get it done. We'll see what he can do at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next, how about the 4 car for Front Row Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson is coming off finishing in the top 5, his first top 5 of the season, this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. And Noah Gragson's actually been decent at Texas Motor Speedway in the past. The front row cars have been hit or miss throughout the early portion of the year, but I do think Noah's got a decent chance and opportunity to get a really solid finish. He's looking for another top 10 to continue the decent run. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Texas. Up next, how about the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson had a fantastic run at Talladega Superspeedway and finished in the runner-up position. Larson also scored the most points at Talladega of all drivers in the field. Larson's going in as one of the favorites going in the weekend. He won at this track back in 2021, and he dominated the early portion of 2024 before a tire issue really came into place. I look for Larson to be a big factor, and I think he'll have a good chance and opportunity to get win number 3 of 2025 at this track of Texas. Up next, how about the 6 car for RFK Racing? This will once again be driven by Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski has had an awful start to 2025. He is on track to have his worst statistical season in his NASCAR Cup Series career. Now, Brad has been solid at Texas Motor Speedway in the past, but I'm just worried about the RFK speed and Brad Keselowski, especially with the inconsistency that this team has shown. He's looking for a really big bounce-back run this weekend at Texas. He's been okay at this track. We'll see what Brad can do with RFK Racing at Texas Motor Speedway. We'll see what he can do. Up next, up with the 7 car for Spire Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Justin Haley. Justin Haley's coming off of having a decent run, finishing outside of the top 20, around 25th this past weekend at Talladega. It's been a very tumultuous last couple of weeks as he lost Rodney Childers about a week or so ago, and he's looking to really turn the corner. Justin's had some decent speed early in the year, and I think the Spire cars have shown some decent speed early in the year. We'll see what Justin Haley can do, and we'll see if Haley can have a really good run this weekend at Texas. Up next, how about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing? This will once again be driven by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch did not have a really good run this past weekend at Talladega as he finished outside of the top 20 and had a speeding penalty near the end of the event. Now, Kyle Busch will also have a new sponsor this weekend as 7-Eleven is going to sponsor for the first time this year. Kyle Busch has won at Texas Motor Speedway quite a few times in NASCAR Cup competition, but with RCR, he hasn't had the best stats. So we'll see what he can do this weekend. Maybe he can get that first Cup win of 2025. Up next, up with the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott is coming off of finishing inside, I believe, the top 5 this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. He's been quietly having a good run, and he comes in as the defending winner of the spring race at Texas back in 2024. I think he's going to have a good chance and opportunity to be a factor to get that first point win of the year. It's been a year since he last went to victory lane. I think he's going to have a solid chance and a pretty good opportunity to get win number 1 of 2025 this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next, a 10 car for Colleague Racing. This one's going to be driven by Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon, after some really solid runs the last couple weeks for the Colleague team, has not been as strong for the number 10 car. He's looking for a bounce back run at this track. I think he has been very close to winning at this track in the Truck Series before, but has never been a major factor to go to victory lane in Cup competition. He's looking for a strong run, looking for a solid finish. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next up the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's going to be driven by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's coming off of having a pretty okay run this past weekend at Talladega after getting unfortunately put in the back of the draft at the end of the event. For Denny Hamlin, though, he comes in as one of the favorites. Hamlin's been really strong in the early portion of the year, already 2 wins and has had a lot of great finishes and sits in the top 5 in the regular season standings. He looks to pick up his 3rd win of 2025. I think he's got a chance and opportunity to do that for sure this weekend at Texas. Up next up the 12th car for Team Penske. This one's going to be driven by Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, unfortunately, got caught up in a crash in the early portion of the year and didn't have a great run at Talladega. And it's just been a lot of bad luck for this number 12 team. For Blaney, I think he's got a good chance here to have a decent run, but the luck needs to change for Blaney if he's going to be a major factor for this championship. If he can get the luck figured out, I think he definitely can be a major factor for a title at the end of the season. Up next up the 16 car for Colleague Racing. This one's going to be driven by AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger has been doing a really solid job to the point where I believe he's currently in the playoffs at this moment because of the solid consistency from the number 16 team. Allmendinger has been solid at this track before. He's shown some decent speed. We'll see what he can do this weekend, and we'll see if he can have a good run this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway with the 16 team. Up next up the 17 car for RFK Racing. This one's going to be driven by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher, unfortunately, just did not have a good run this past weekend at Talladega as he got caught up in the big one early in the event with Christopher Bell. For Buescher, he's been decent at this track, but has never been great. He is looking for a solid run this weekend, looking for a turnaround run at his hometown track as he's from Prosper, Texas. He looks for a good run. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next up at the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's going to be driven by Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe, after some really strong runs, he did not have a great run this past weekend at Talladega. For Chase Briscoe, though, he goes to a track where he's been decent, but never been fantastic. But I do think, especially with the Joe Gibbs Racing speed, I do think he's actually got a good chance for a great run. We'll see what he can do this weekend, and we'll see if Briscoe could get that first Cup win of 2025 with Joe Gibbs Racing. Up next up, the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's going to be driven by Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell has had a lot of really good runs early in the year, but unfortunately for Bell, he got caught up in one of the big incidents with Chris Buescher. Luckily for Bell, we're going to a track where Bell has honestly been really solid, all the way going back to 2020, where he finished inside the top 3, I believe. He's shown some decent speed here throughout the early portion of the year. He's looking for his 4th Cup win of the season. I think he will be a factor, and I think he'll have a solid chance and opportunity to get that win this weekend at Texas. Up next up the 21 car for the Wood Brothers. This one's going to be driven by Josh Berry. At the last traditional mile-and-a-half race, he was the winner at Las Vegas earlier in the year. Since that time, he's been a little bit up and down. For Josh Berry, though, he's been decent here in the Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports, so that might lead him actually having some decent success. I think the Wood Brothers have been a little inconsistent at times, but they've definitely shown a little more pace and speed. We'll see what Josh Berry can do with the Wood Brothers at Texas. Up next up the 22 car for Team Penske. This one's going to be driven by Joey Logano. After crossing the finish line inside the top 5 at Talladega, a couple hours after the race concluded, Joey Logano was disqualified and was relegated back to finishing in last place. Logano's still looking for his first top 5 finish of the year. And historically, Logano has been hit or miss at Texas. He is looking for a good run. He's looking to get that first top 5 of the year. He looks for redemption and to get number 1 top 5 finish this weekend and maybe that first win as well. Up next up the 23 car for 2311 Racing. This one's going to be driven by Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is coming off finishing inside the top 10 this past weekend at Talladega and led some laps in one stage number 2. And this is historically a really good track for Bubba. He led a lot of laps in 2023, had a fast car in 2024. I think he's got a good chance to get that first win in nearly 3 years. We know he's really good at the mile-and-a-half tracks historically, and there's been times where he's even been better than Tyler Reddick this year. He's looking for a great run. We'll see if Bubba can get that first win of 2025 at Texas. Up next, up with the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by William Byron. William Byron is coming off of getting a ton of stage wins and finishing inside the top 5 at Talladega Superspeedway in 3rd place. William Byron's been having a really great season. He has a massive points lead over Kyle Larson, about a 30 to 40 point lead, and he's just been generally having a really strong year, and he's a former winner at this track back in 2023. He's looking for a second win at this track and his second win in 2025. He looks to get that done this weekend at Texas. Up next, up the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by Todd Gillen. Todd Gillen is coming off of having an okay finish, but not a fantastic day at Talladega. And historically for Gillen, he's been a little bit hit or miss at this track, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's going to be a major factor to go to victory lane. I could be wrong, and he runs really good, but I think the front row cars have been a little bit inconsistent. So I think he'll have a decent run, but I don't expect it to be a major factor. I think it will be a little bit of struggle for him this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next, up at a 35 car for 2311 Racing. This one's going to be driven by Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst continues to be a little bit inconsistent early in the year and has generally been one of the worst drivers in the early portion of the season. He's been decent here in the Xfinity Series before, but I just don't know about the Cup Series program because 2311's been better than Herbst has been this year, so he is just going to be looking to have a good run. We'll see what he can do and see if Herbst can actually have a solid performance, maybe get that first shocking top 10 of 2025. Up next, up at a 38 car for Front Row Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by Zane Smith. Zane Smith, of course, won the pole and is coming off, I believe, finishing inside the top 15 at Talladega Superspeedway. Zane Smith is looking to have a good run. He's been decent here. He believes he's going to have Speedy Cash maybe as a sponsor, which is perfect for the track. I think Zane could be in for a decent run. He's had decent speed throughout the season, so Zane looks to get another good finish this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next, up with the 41 car for the Haas factory team. This one's going to be driven by Cole Custer. Cole Custer actually had a really solid run at Talladega and finished inside the top 15. And Cole Custer also is going to be having Red Baron as a sponsor this weekend. I think Cole Custer honestly could have an okay run, but I don't expect him to be a major factor at all, as the Haas factory team has struggled quite a bit early in the year. He looks for a great run. We'll see what Cole Custer can do at Texas. Up next, up with the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. This one's going to be driven by John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek has had some decent speed early in the year at times, but this past weekend at Talladega was not the best run for John Hunter. I do think Legacy could run solidly. His teammate we'll talk about in a second. He has ran quite well at this track before. Nemechek's also won here previously in the Xfinity Series 4 years ago. He looks to get a win and maybe a great finish this weekend at Texas. Up next, up with the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club. This one's going to be driven by Eric Jones. Eric Jones is coming off having an okay run this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway, and we go to a track like Texas where he's been pretty good in the past, as he almost won this track a few years ago. I do think that Eric Jones could be in for a really strong performance. I think this could be one of his better tracks to watch out for. He's looking for a good run. I think there's a chance he could have this solid performance. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next, up with the 45 car for 2311 Racing. This one's going to be driven by Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick is coming off having a pretty mediocre performance this past weekend at Talladega, even though he was up front from time to time. Reddick, in my opinion, is one of the favorites going into Texas. He showed some really good speed last year at this track, and I think the 2311 Racing cars historically have been pretty good here. He's looking for a really good run with the 2311 program, still looking for that first Cup win of the year going into race number 11. I think he's got a chance to do that this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway with the 45 team. Up next, up with the 47 car for Hayek Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has been quietly having a solid season so far. Despite the fact he hasn't led a lot of laps, hasn't been up front, he scored a lot of stage points, and I believe is still sitting in the top 20 in the regular season standings. I don't think he's going to be a factor to make the playoffs at this point, but I could see Stenhouse being a sneaky driver who could finish in the top 20 in the standings. Despite all the uncertainty with this program, he's been doing a really good job this year with the Hayek Motorsports team. Up next, up with the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman is coming off finishing inside the top 10 this past weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. And we go to a track where Bowman has been solid, but has never been really that great. But I think Bowman has shown a lot more speed this year, even at tracks where he's not been always that great at. I do think he will contend for a top 10 once again, like he showed this past weekend at Talladega. I think he will score some stage points, and I think it could be a pretty good weekend for the 48 team at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. Up next up at the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing. This one's going to be driven by Cody Ware. Cody Ware actually was up front in quite a bit of the race at Talladega, but unfortunately I think he had a speeding penalty and finished 31st. I think Cody Ware will struggle, unfortunately. I think the Rick Ware cars have generally not been that fast this year outside of when Corey LaJoie is driven. I think it's been a struggle for Cody. I think it's not going to be a great weekend for him. I think he finishes near the back of the field like he's done most of the year, like he will this weekend at Texas. Up next up at the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one once going to be driven by Ty Gibbs. After 3 straight finishes of finishing inside the top 15, Ty Gibbs fell back to finishing in 17th place. But he actually led the most laps of the race at Talladega, which is kind of crazy for the Toyotas. Ty Gibbs is looking for a turnaround run once again, and I think that this team has been really bouncing back and turning the corner. I think he's due for a potential first career win. He's getting close to that 100 start in NASCAR Cup competition. We'll see what Ty can do, and maybe, just maybe, he could get that first career Cup Series win and lock his way into playoffs with the win at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next up at the 60 car for RFK Racing. This one once going to be driven by Ryan Preece. After rigid crossing the finish line in second place, 22 1,000 seconds behind Austin Cinder, he was disqualified for 3 spoiler shims on the back of the car instead of the 2 that are required. Ryan Preece, of course, then got relegated to the end of the field. I think Ryan Preece could have a decent run. He's been generally a lot faster than even his teammates at this point, and I think he might be the strongest RFK driver at this time. He's looking for that first Cup win of his NASCAR Cup Series career. He's looking for redemption. Why not get some redemption and go this weekend to Texas and get that first win? I think he's got a good chance and opportunity. This historically is a good track for this program. We'll see what he can do at Texas Motor Speedway. Up next up at the 62 car for Beer Motorsports. This one will be driven by Jesse Love in his first of 2 scheduled starts with the program. Jesse Love did make his NASCAR Cup Series debut at Bristol Motor Speedway, where of course he finished outside the top 30 because he finished 7 laps down. The goal for Jesse is to just gain as much experience as possible. There's a lot of talk he might be in the Cup Series next year in some way, shape, or form, maybe as a full-time driver, but he's looking to get that experience. We'll see what he can do this weekend with the Beer Motorsports team at Texas, as RCR will be helping the program as well. Up next up at the 66 car for Garage 66. This will be driven by Chad Fincham, who will make his first NASCAR Cup Series start of the year. This car has been driven by people like Casey Mears. Originally was going to be driven by Mike Wallace, but of course was also driven by Chandler Smith as well. I think Chad Fincham will struggle, unfortunately. This car has been the slowest car on the racetrack every time it's gotten out there, but it's good to see that this car's back on the track and running more races. The more data they can get and the more experience they can get, I think it's definitely going to help that program in a pretty big way. Up next up with the 71 car for Spire Motorsports. This one once going to be driven by Michael McDowell. McDowell led a lot of laps at Talladega, but I think he finished outside of the top 10. McDowell has been a little bit hit or miss at this track. He's had some good runs, but also not been always that great at this racetrack. I do think McDowell's going to have a chance to get a solid finish. He's looking for a good run. We'll see what he can do this weekend with the Spire Motorsports team and organization at Texas Motor Speedway with the said program. Up next up at the 77 car for Spire Motorsports. This is once going to be driven by Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar is going to be doing double duty this weekend. He's going to be running his first of 4 scheduled Truck Series races in the number 7 truck, and he also will be running the Cup Series race as well. And once again, Chili's is sponsoring, so we're probably going to see the Ride Dente commercial quite a bit throughout the event. Carson's actually had a lot of speed this year, but not the results to back it up. But of course, he won his first truck race here 2 years ago, so I think he will have a good chance for a good run at Texas. Up next up at the 88 car for Trackhouse Racing. This will once again be driven by Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane Van Gisbergen has had a lot of bad luck early in the year. He unfortunately got a speeding penalty and finished in 29th position. Tough break for SVG, who's just not had a really great start to the season overall, and is having one of the worst rookie seasons we've seen for a rookie driver. We could see the turnaround happen this weekend in Texas. He was solid here in the Xfinity Series last year. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. And finally, let's talk about the 99 car for Trackhouse. This one once going to be driven by Daniel Suarez. Now, Daniel Suarez actually had a pretty solid run. I believe he actually got a top 10 this past weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. For me, Daniel Suarez is still trying to figure out what he's going to do for 2026. We're still not sure if he'll be back in that car for 2026 or he's going to be looking for another seat. He's looking for a good run at one of his hometown tracks. He looks to have a solid performance. We'll see what he can do, and maybe Daniel Suarez could get that first Cup win of 2025 in his 3rd career Cup Series victory. So that is going to be for the intros video for the 2025 Wurth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What thoughts about the intro? Some of your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know who you think will be the favorites going into the race at Texas. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Later this morning on the channel, you're going to be seeing the Truck Series race picks for Texas Motor Speedway. Then tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news video discussing news over the course of the last couple days. And we're also, of course, going to be doing the Xfinity Series race picks for Texas. Thursday, we're going to have the Cup race picks for the Wurth 400 and the starting line, and of course the paint scheme video. And then Friday, we should have a truck review coming out depending on when I get home from work. And we also should have some news video dropping early in the morning as well. I got content coming out. People like Haley Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bubba Walls, Ross Chastain, Cletus McFarland, Matt DiBenedetto, Connor Zilch, Jr. Motorsports, and Eric Almirola as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.